I wanted to make a quick video. I mentioned in a previous one that I had stopped reading, and so I read a cheesy time travel romance novel. Very quick read, easy read, and it was just kind of light and fluffy, and the characters were enjoyable, and there were some nuances to subplots that you could play with if you are, a fan that feels inclined to do that, or has time to do that. It was I really enjoyed the first one. It did seem like it was for a younger audience, in my opinion, but I liked it, and I read another one in that series, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it because I thought that it was kind of unique. We always had a huge bookcase, and my mom had like several shelves completely devoted to romance novels. So I've read a number of them, and I it's kind of a cheesy genre. You've got the Regency, the true love and the purity with the common rake and this rapscallion, and that's kind of a trend that surpasses just Regency. You can see that kind of around a lot of the different genres, like this hellfire, and then some, or they flip it, and the woman is the hellfire, and so they flip those roles, and it's kind of it's cute. If you like the genre, then it's like, okay, yeah. But anyway, obviously, each book does have like maybe 2 sex scenes or so, and some of them can be very ribald depending on what the author was going for, I guess, in that particular one. Others can be sweeter and more, dance around the scene a little bit, and a lot of them are oftentimes very romantic. I thought this was interesting because these books were, I think, for a younger audience, or maybe it's more of a modern take on romance, because I felt like the emphasis wasn't placed on the intercourse per se, of like the two forces kind of coming together. It was they focused on the primary character that was being that was leading the plot, and it was about having power in it. And I think that was kind of a good thing to a certain degree, in that women are also sexual entities, and they can have power in that relationship. They don't necessarily need to be, shamed or embarrassed by how they feel, or if they are interested in a partner. And I think sometimes, that was kind of a trope where, women or, were blushy and what have you, and so this was kind of a different take on that. They were definitely more confident in their sexuality. It also they didn't go for immediate intercourse, immediate penetration, I guess. It was more like and we actually talked about this in health class when I was in school, or that we had like a presentation where the different levels of intimacy. You kind of start like getting to know the person, then you start with there are stages. So, and then there's like the intimate touch, and then there's, and then it gradually goes farther. And so this one kind of was more about, kind of followed that a little bit more, I'd say, where there was more like foreplay without the penetration until, they were ready for actual, the actual, and I don't know if that's, I thought that was kind of a nice shout out to, and, especially if you are not sexually active, or if you're younger, you may not know the nuances of sex, and so you might not know the discomforts, and that things aren't a fairy tale per se. And so it's good to be able to know how to take care of yourself, to try and ease the awkwardness and ease the imperfection that might come with a new relationship, that these characters obviously were experiencing. So I thought that it was really, really great that the female characters were already comfortable in their own sexuality and comfortable with their bodies. And I thought that it was also kind of a nice change. I do kind of, I think it took away some of the vulnerability of being in love or in a relationship. And of course, that's not necessarily true. It kind of like blossomed, but there is still that questioning of, how do they feel? What is the longitudinal, what's going to happen? And I think that was kind of, that could have been, they were very, very confident characters, and I didn't see as much of the vulnerability that I think I do kind of appreciate. But I also thought that some of the comfort in sexuality was very ribald. And I'm, you know, I do think that it's good that the characters are comfortable in themselves and comfortable in their sexuality, but I did still feel like it was a little overt, and I think that I'm wondering if that was like on purpose to. I'm not sure. I just felt like some of it was more promiscuous than I would imagine such, beginnings of relationships to be, because there was so much confidence right off the bat, and it was, it was just. It seemed like, wow, I'm here and I'm going to pleasure you, even though they had never been intimate before with another person, So it was. But one of the books had more of, I'm learning to do this, I'm learning what you like, I'm learning what I like. The other one was less like that, and so it's like, it was kind of an interesting dynamic. I'm just trying to hash out what exactly confidence is not a bad thing, of course, and so I'm just kind of trying to puzzle it out, because the older versions did seem to me to have more vulnerability, but also the power was kind of potentially in the masculine court. Like, there was a lot of power given to the male, and I do think that it's good to give that power to the female as well. So it's just an interesting dynamic to think about. It was interesting. I didn't care for the plot as much for the second book. It was very comparable to the first one. I just thought that they could have diversified more and it would have been more interesting. But otherwise, I just thought it was interesting. It was new, I think, for me in the way of the genre of romance, to kind of flip the script and give the ladies power. Sometimes I felt like they were too flippant and too clever and too like in control, or because I do think that that there will, I don't know. I was just, sometimes that rubbed me the wrong way, but I think that it's interesting to talk about and discuss those relations and where the narration is going and how we are teaching sexual relations to our future generations, just to kind of see how it goes. And like the first book, they weren't sure if they wanted to get married, and that they both were not interested in waiting for marriage to consummate and create that union, that sexual union, and so they're kind of taking the pressure off of marriage and having that connection and kind of having that experience before you make that that long lasting commitment, which is also is not a bad thing, because you want to know the person, be comfortable with the person, and you don't want to necessarily be committing yourself to a complete stranger. Granted, the second book, both books had them meeting these characters and within a few days they were sexually intimate. So they still have that 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 element of immediacy, but and that level of commitment. But it was about their power, and not necessarily their growth in their sexual nature as perhaps more than their relationship with the other person, I think. So I thought that was interesting. So just kind of curious about that. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you've read romances, if you hate romances, if you love romance novels, just curious what you think. So thanks. Bye.